afternoon and welcome to Foreign Desk on Benue Television. My name is Winifred So, on the headlines, South Africa's president unveils new coalition government. Ukraine's president renews appeal for more long-range weapons and air defenses. Plus, North Korea criticizes joint military exercise by United States, South Korea, and Japan. Mauritania President Mohamed Ghazouani has been re-elected as head of state following Saturday's national vote. According to provisional results on the Electoral Commission's website, President Ghazouani got over 56% of the vote, beating 6 opposition candidates. In second position was anti-slavery activist Bayram David with 22%, while Hamadi Sidi El Makhtar of the Islamist Tawassul Party came third with 13%. Analysts had expected him to win the election in the first round. The president, a former army chief, is credited with establishing stability since his first election 5 years ago, after decades of political unrest and frequent coups. He has been allies with Western partners, but has also kept ties with junta-led neighbors including Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, which have turned towards Russia in recent years. Mauritania has largely avoided the Islamist insurgencies affecting neighboring Sahel states. Second place, Abid said he would not recognize the results, calling it an electoral coup. Mr. Abid, whose grandparents were slaves and has spent much of his life campaigning against the practice in the country, was vying for the presidency for the third time. He emerged second in the 2019 elections, also won by Mr. Ghazouani. He and other opposition candidates alleged irregularities in the election, which led to small-scale protests. Before the election, third-place candidate Makhtar warned that his party would not accept the results if it suspected rigging. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has unveiled a new coalition government after his ruling African National Congress (ANC) party lost its parliamentary majority in May's election. He said a government of national unity is unprecedented in the history of the nation's democracy. The ANC will have 20 out of 32 cabinet posts, while the Pro-Market Democratic Alliance (DA) will hold 6. 6 other portfolios are shared amongst smaller parties. These appointments followed weeks of tense negotiations that threatened to scupper the agreement. At some point, President Ramaphosa accused the DA of trying to create a parallel government in breach of the constitution. According to analysts, the shrinking of ANC support in the elections reflected public frustration over its poor record on delivering basic services and tackling unemployment, poverty, and corruption. The ANC, led by Nelson Mandela, came to power in 1994, ending decades of white minority rule in South Africa. Some of its activists have criticized it for sharing power with the DA, which some see as representing white interests. The coalition government was welcomed by the business community and said it would ensure economic stability, in contrast to a potential deal with 2 radical parties which have split off from the ANC. In the new cabinet, the ANC will keep key ministries such as defense, finance, and foreign affairs. The DA's portfolios include home affairs and public works, which has been at the center of a series of corruption scandals. Kenya's President William Ruto says his country will have to borrow more to keep the government running following the rejection of a hugely unpopular finance bill that was going to raise more money in taxes. The president said he would withdraw the bill containing controversial tax hikes after deadly protests saw parliament set on fire. He revealed that dropping the bill had set the country back by 2 years. As he explained the difficulty of being unable to raise extra taxes while facing a huge debt burden, he said this meant Kenya would have to borrow $7.6 billion just to be able to run government. This is a 67% increase on what had been planned. According to the president, the proposed tax measures were part of efforts to cut the debt burden of over $80 billion. With about 60% of Kenya's collected revenues goes to servicing debt. Ruto said the rejection of the budget would affect the employment of 46,000 junior secondary school teachers who have been on temporary contracts, as well as health care provision. He said the government would be unable to support dairy, sugarcane and coffee farmers, including by paying off debts owed by their factories and cooperative societies as had been planned. He, however, added that he was considering the issues that had been raised by those who opposed the finance bill, such as cutting spending by his office and scrapping budgets for the First Lady and the Deputy President's spouse. Democratic President Joe Biden's family has urged him to ignore calls to step aside following his performance in the debate against Republican Donald Trump. He spent Sunday with relatives at a presidential retreat where they encouraged him to keep fighting. Anxiety has crippled sections of his party following a rambling and at times incoherent performance in Atlanta. Polls since then suggest concerns about his age have increased, but the message from his campaign team and his family is that he remains the party's best hope to defeat Trump. Some relatives have reportedly blamed his performance on over-preparation by his aides. Concerns about the age of both candidates were present before Thursday's debate. According to analysts, Biden's weak voice and muddled answers renewed concerns about his candidacy and left some calling for him to step aside. Trump was also criticized for making a number of false assertions, including his long-held grievance that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Republicans said the debate showed why Trump was the right choice. Let's take a very short break. We will be back. Do stay with us. Welcome, it's still Foreign Desk on Benue Television. Now, South Korea's military says North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles and the second may have failed and blown up, possibly raining debris inland. Monday's launches came a day after Pyongyang promised offensive and overwhelming responses to new military drills staged by the United States, South Korea and Japan. In a statement, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said that the missiles were launched 10 minutes apart in a northeastern direction from the town of Jangnyeong in southeastern North Korea. The military said the first missile flew 600 kilometers and the second for 120 kilometers, but did not say where they landed. According to analysts, North Korea typically test fire missiles towards its eastern waters, but the second missile flight distance was too short to reach that far. Monday's launches were the first for North Korea in 5 days and came as the US, South Korea, and Japan ended their Freedom Age drills, new multi-domain trilateral military exercises. Pyongyang typically frames such drills as rehearsals for an invasion or proof of the country's hostility. Last Wednesday, North Korea launched what it called a multi-warhead missile in the first known test of the developmental advanced weapon meant to defeat US and South Korea missile defenses. On Friday, North Korea began a key ruling party meeting to determine what it called important immediate issues related to works to further enhance Korean-style socialism. North Korea has criticized the joint military exercise by the United States, South Korea, and Japan, saying such drills show the relationship among the three countries have developed into the Asian version of North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO). Pyongyang's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that the US-Japan-South Korea relations have taken on what it called a dangerous dimension, warning of fatal consequences. It said North Korea will never overlook moves of the US and its followers to strengthen the military bloc. On Thursday, the US, Japan, and South Korea began large-scale joint military drills called Freedom Age, involving Navy destroyers, fighter jets, and the nuclear-powered US aircraft carriers Theodore Roosevelt, aimed at boosting defenses against missiles, submarines, and air attacks. The exercise was devised at a three-way summit at Camp David in the US to strengthen military cooperation amid tensions on the Korean Peninsula stemming from North Korea's weapons testing. North Korea has long condemned joint drills between the United States and South Korea as a rehearsal for invasion and proof of hostile policies by Washington and Seoul. South Korea rejected North Korea's accusations, saying the latest exercises are a continuation of defensive drills held regularly among the three allies. Seoul also said it will review the possibility of supplying arms directly to Ukraine in protest against the recent mutual defense pact signed between North Korea leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin. South Korea and the US have also accused the North of supplying weapons to Russia that are being used in its war in Ukraine. Both Russia and North Korea have denied any such transactions. Ferocious storms and torrential rains have lashed France, Switzerland, and Italy, have killed 7 people. According to local authorities, 3 people in their 70s and 80s died in France's northeastern Albi region when a tree crushed the car they were traveling in during fierce winds. In neighboring Switzerland, 4 people have died and another 2 missing after violent thunderstorms and melting snow caused flooding and landslides in 2 southern cantons. 3 of the victims were killed in a landslide in the remote Maggia Valley in the Italian-speaking Alpine canton of Ticino. The civil security services said several hundred people were evacuated in Valais and roads closed after the Rhone and its tributaries overflowed in different locations. Emergency services were assessing the best way to evacuate 300 people who had arrived for a football tournament in Pescia, while almost 70 more were being evacuated from a holiday camp in the village of Montgner. The poor weather made rescue work particularly difficult, with several valleys inaccessible and cut off from the electricity network. Extreme rainfall also struck southeastern Switzerland last week, killing one person and causing major damage. In northern Italy's Orstown Villa, internet users shared images of spectacular floods and swollen rivers rushing down mountain slopes. Scientists say climate change driven by human activities is increasing the severity, frequency, and length of extreme weather events such as floods and storms. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has renewed his appeal for more long-range weapons and air defenses after a missile attack killed 7 people, including 2 children. Ukrainian officials said the Russian attack on the town of Banyans near the southeastern city of Zaporizhia also injured 31 others. It was reported that a total of at least 11 civilians were killed and a further 37 wounded in missile attacks across Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky said Ukrainian cities and communities suffer daily from Russian strikes. Ukraine's Prosecutor General Audrey Kostin said 2 missiles hit the town, damaging infrastructure, a shop and residential building. Mr. Kostin also said 4 people were killed and 7 wounded in artillery strikes on 3 villages near the front line in the eastern Donetsk region. The Russian Defense Ministry has not publicly commented on the attack, but he added that the ways to overcome the Russian menace is by destroying Russian missile launchers, striking with real long-range capability, and increasing the number of modern air defense systems. Western allies have already supplied Ukraine with a number of long-range weapons, including Scalp missiles from France, Storm Shadow from the UK, and ATACMS from the US, as well as US-made Patriot air defense systems. However, the flow of weapons from the US, the Ukraine's largest arms supplier by far, faltered earlier in 2024 after a bill designating further military aid was held up in Congress. The legislation was eventually passed in April, and air defense systems and long-range missiles were arriving on front lines and the following month. Let's take another break. We'll be back shortly with more stories, so stay with us. Welcome. It's still Foreign Desk on Benway Television. Paramilitary forces battling Sudan's army for more than a year said they have captured a key state's capital in the war-torn country's southeast. It was reported that the RSF is gained control of an increasing number of territories across Sudan, especially in eastern and western parts of the country's south. The Sudanese army did not dispute the RSF's statement that it has taken control of the 17th Infantry Division. It has also been confirmed that civilians have started leaving the city since Saturday, and more on Sunday. Sudan has been grappled by war since April 2023, when fighting erupted between forces loyal to Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the RSF led by his former deputy Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. The conflict in the country of 48 million has killed tens of thousands, displaced millions, and triggered one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. That's it on Foreign Desk, but before we go, let's take a recap of our headlines. South Africa's president has unveiled a new coalition government. We told you that Ukraine's president has renewed appeal for more long-range weapons and air defenses. We also intimated you that North Korea has criticized joint military exercise by United States, South Korea, and Japan. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Winifred. So stay tuned to Benue Television.